The Justice and Correctional Services Minister, Ronald Lamola, is helping victims of crime and offenders heal together. He's hosting a public victim-offender dialogue in Bushbuckridge in Mpumalanga. This ahead of the Day of Reconciliation tomorrow. eNCA's Mpumalanga is there and joins me now for an update. And I see that the Justice Minister is working closer to home, his home territory there in Bushbuckridge, Mpumalanga. But this is an issue that is beyond just, the geographic area where he is hosting it. What is the goal of today's engagement between victims of crime and offenders in Bushbuckridge?
Well, basically, this dialogue is aimed at bringing together perpetrators and victims so that they will have that opportunity to have a face-to-face discussion. This is designed to give both sides a chance to hear what offenders have to say. Basically, they are apologizing for violating their victims, and the victims can decide whether to accept or reject that apology. Let me tell you that it's not a coincidence that the minister is here. He may be from Mpumalanga and from this area in particular, but let me tell you that this area has been plagued by crimes including murder, attempted murder and rape. So some of the offenders that are speaking here today, they have committed some of those crimes including murder, attempted murder and rape. In fact, we have just heard from two gentlemen who were involved in a gang rape, I think 16 years ago. They were arrested and sentenced to life imprisonment. They have been in jail for 16 years. They have come here to apologize to the victim, but we were told that the family members of the victim did not come here. So because our viewers would basically understand that this is an emotionally charged gathering, it's up to the victims to decide whether they accept that apology or not. They cannot be forced. So all these processes can be undertaken prior to this dialogue, but we were told today that some of the victims or family members of the victims decided not to come here, but there are those who came here to accept that apology from the offenders and perpetrators. So we have also heard from one female offender who committed murder. She killed another lady whom she found with her boyfriend at the time. It was very emotional when she was asking for forgiveness from the son of the deceased, and the son of the deceased, who was visibly emotional, did accept that apology. So this gathering is mainly designed to offer offenders and victims that chance to listen to each other with an aim of reintegrating offenders back to society. I understand now that Minister Ronald Lamola is taking to the podium. My colleague Joe Coman will show you now what is happening in the background. So here you've got all stakeholders that are here, including correctional services, police, traditional leaders, and other sectors and stakeholders of the society, because this dialogue happens under the watchful eye of the police, because things can and have in the past gotten off hand here. So you don't want a situation where people will get emotional and then things will go either way. So it happens under the watchful eye of the police.
I can imagine how difficult those conversations must be between victim and offender there, Mpumalanga. Just lastly, so that we release you so you can listen to the minister's speech, I imagine that, as do many South Africans, that this doesn't replace the need to dispense justice, does it? In the sense that, in as much as there's this dialogue being facilitated, the other angle of it is to say, let's ensure that, people face the consequences for some of their actions.
Indeed, that is the case, and even those who have spoken here, they have been saying that yes, this dialogue is important, it's been happening for years, but it doesn't replace justice taking its course. They still say, even the offenders themselves say, they understand why they were convicted and they understand why they have to pay for their sins and for their crimes. So this does not in any way replace that aspect of justice. Those who are found guilty, they still need to undergo that process, and they do concede that yes, they did wrong and they have learned their lesson in jail. Let me tell you that they also they are sending out a strong message to those who are still thinking about committing crime, saying crime does not pay. And this area, let me tell you that we have heard that in terms of the statistics, there are more than 270 people who are out on parole in this area alone. And it tells you why this dialogue is important to be held in this area, because in most cases there are those parolees who have been rearrested, who are reoffending again. So this dialogue is also meant to address that aspect, not in this area per se, but generally across South Africa. There are cases whereby those who have been released on parole have reoffended and they have been taken back to prison. So this dialogue is aimed at particularly giving and siding with the victims, because there has been that concern in South Africa that the criminal justice system favors the perpetrators. So this dialogue tries to give victims a voice, because it has to side with them. They are the ones who have been violated.
All right, thank you for that. That's eNCA's Siphamandla Goke out in Bushbuckridge there, where the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services, Ronald Lamola, has taken to the podium. And I suppose that program really emphasizes the ethos of rehabilitation and reintegration of offenders that runs through our criminal justice system. A person basically is never considered a criminal or, convict. We don't use such terms. We talk of offenders. And the idea is that once you've paid your debt to society, you will be reintroduced into the same society. And I suppose that's important in terms of having those conversations before people are reintroduced and reintegrated into society after serving their stint in prison.